and welcome to the Controller Talk podcast presented by Danfoss North America. Our goal is to bring you information about using Danfoss controls in the supermarket and warehouse industry, specifically in the US and Canada. We're doing these twice a month for now. You can catch these podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, and it's also available through the Danfoss Ref Tools app. For the video version, check us out on the Danfoss North America YouTube page. Search for Controller Talk to see our video collection. I'm Dave Yoder, along with Chris Brown. Hey Chris, it's still football season.
It is.
That's right, yep. Hopefully by now the World Series has been decided. I'm pretty sure the Phillies and the Orioles are not going to be in it.
Probably the two teams I did not want to see made it. So.
Well, yeah, you're not allowed to like the Yankees in this town.
The Dodgers are the lesser of the two evils for me right now. So I guess I'm
go.
pulling for them.
That's right, go Dodgers.
Yeah.
My man Eddie in Los Angeles will be happy to hear that.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, you know the saying, the early bird gets the worm. According to Stephen Wright, what does the second mouse get?
Nothing would be.
The second mouse gets the cheese.
Okay. Yeah, the first one gets the
First one gets the mousetrap.
I'm with you on this one. I'm with you on this one.
All right. Yeah. Kudos to Stephen Wright for that one. That he's got a million of them.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. You're going to hear more this year.
Keep them rolling.
I'm promising you that. All right. So this time around, we're going to talk about something that not everyone uses, but some people do. And it's an RTU controller called the MCX. Now, this one specifically, because we know the MCX comes in a few different versions and flavors and sizes, but this one specifically is the MCX is for rooftop units. And it can be smaller ones up to bigger ones because there's a lot of inputs and outputs on these things. But the idea is that this thing starts out as a blank slate. It's a piece of hardware, and you've got to load applications into it. But yeah, it can do a lot of different things based on what's been loaded into it.
Yeah, it's close to our version of a PLC, you could say, the MCX hardware itself. And yeah, it's the most popular application of it was we started with Aeon and built this application centered around rooftop unit control. And it's definitely expanded and grown and evolved from where we started years ago with it to be more of a global program and application that could cover other rooftop units as well. So that's really it, is that it's the most popular application that you'll see of these MCX controllers with some of the different customers. And so out of the box, we know that it is just a blank brick, for lack of better terms. It's a paperweight out of the box. And so if guys are powering this thing up and seeing that it just has the MCX logo on the screen, it's because we need to load an application into the MCX. So yeah, it's somebody would have a file and be able to use an SD card, and we'll probably get into that a little more here later, but you do need to load an application into the MCX so that it can be told what it's being used for, how it's being applied. Otherwise, it's not like our case controllers, pack controllers, where out of the box it kind of knows its intent and purpose and you're just setting set points. Here you need to actually tell it what the application is that it's being used for. We used to sell it with the RTU app under a separate part number. Some guys may be familiar with that if they dealt with the controller in the past, but we did move away from that. So today the way that it's sold is just as the MCX controller itself with no application loaded in. So if guys were used to that in the past, just know that now you're going to order a separate part number for the MCX controller, and the expectation is that a guy on site is loading the application in. We really don't have any options to do it ourselves or do it either in the factory or with our own guys getting the controller ahead of time. It's the expectations. It's being loaded in the field.
You want to impress us with that part number of what you would use to buy it?
I think it was 060G 0284 85.
You're really close.
80.
How about a 080G?
What did I say? 080?
Yeah, 060.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. How about a 080G0285?
There, yeah, okay. I focused too much on the back end and not enough on the first part.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
060G.
Yeah. I'm sure someone will email us if I'm wrong about that, but I'm going with it.
Okay. But yeah, it's I mean, we're talking variable speed fans on the blower fan, damper control, digital compressors if we have them, VFD driven compressors. It's pretty extensive what all it can control inside of the unit. And so once the application is loaded, it's the idea that you're just setting up the set points and enabling the options you want.
Yep.
So that's the general idea behind the application. We do have a manual for it if somebody needs some additional info beyond what they already know, or if questions pop up, there is a manual that's available for it as well that we'd have to send out as needed.
Yep. The manual covers the hardware and the application that's loaded into it, so that you know kind of how the menu's laid out and how many have different options you can turn on and
where the
stuff like
sensors
that.
are expected to be landed, all of that.
Right. Yep. All the parameter information.
Yep.
Yeah. And as far as connecting to this, it comes with a screen on it, a little display, and 6 or 8 buttons that go along with it. And you could pretty much do everything from the screen if you really wanted to. But you can also tie in Modbus on the RS-45 port of the MCX. You can tie that back to the 800 or the 800A and land it on the Modbus port back there at the controller. You can plug in a MMI GRS2 display into it if for some reason you needed to. So those are all the connection options that you have. And then, over the years, there's been different software versions. And I think it started with like a 1.02, and we're up to like a 1.09 now, maybe.
Yeah, and you want to be careful there. I think the general rule of thumb you want to use is to keep them all at the same version at a given site or on a given controller. You don't want to have a mix of 104 was pretty popular, but you don't want to have a mix of 104s and 107s and 102s. You want to, if you're upgrading one, you kind of want to take the approach of upgrading them all to keep them at the same version, because one of the things that they do is share. They can share, and typically they will, global data like your indoor humidity, temperature, outdoor humidity and temp potentially as well if you have all that. But that's usually things that are wired to one MCX and shared. So keeping them all at the same software version allows for that global data sharing to take place properly.
Yep. And typically when you're doing upgrades, you're loading a couple of files onto an SD card. And I believe the SD card needs to be 32 gig or less. And typically you're putting the files on the SD card, putting it in the slot on the controller, and then you reset power to the controller.
Power cycle it.
Yep, to do that upgrade.
And if it's a replacement situation at that point and it's the same version that was in there previously, you could just downgrade from the, or download from the system manager rather.
Yeah, push the settings in from the system manager.
Yep. So we do use main switch. So people familiar with that main switch term from pack case controllers. We do have a main switch here, so there's a soft switch through the program that has to be turned on and off for the features or functions to start regulating. And then there's also an external as well that you'd have wired in there. So either a jumper, or if you're actually going to use something there, you'd want to have that wiring in place as well, or turn the option off in the program. There are quite a few different MCX variations when you look at the hardware. So this application specifically is built to expect one specific model of hardware. So you just want to watch. You don't just want to go buying any random MCX off the shelf and trying to load this application into it. It won't work. So I think it's the 15v2 still that we're loading these files into. That gives you the outputs you potentially need for the analog outputs and relays and your input side too, analog and digital. It gives you the right quantities there. Whereas if you tried to use something else, you might not have all those inputs and outputs you need, and the application isn't looking for that model of hardware either. So you want to stick to that part number that Dave gave you earlier, not the one I said. But yeah, the application does have to match up with a specific hardware version.
Yep.
And then lastly, the MCX platform itself. And yes, we do have some other smaller, less frequently used applications as well there. So there are some of those things floating around you could potentially come across. But the MCX platform as a whole, we're starting to make a shift towards a new platform for us. It's called AllSmart. And so you'll start hearing and seeing some of that We're slowly transitioning any applications we had on the MCX over to that platform here as time goes on. And at some point, I would expect that the RTU app is also going to fall into that same category of being on the AllSmart platform with that hardware somewhere in the near future. So MCX platform will slowly kind of fade away in replacement, or with the AllSmart being the replacement option for it.
Yep. I think the idea with the AllSmart platform is higher security options, better programming tools, probably even more robust hardware.
Processor, that sort of yeah, all those things. Yep. Agreed.
Okay. All right, moving on from the MCX, let's talk about a question called Stump Chris.
Don't break my streak.
That's right. Yeah, did well last time.
I might have to put the hair back on here.
You're lucky. Good luck charm for you, anyway. So on the MCX, we mentioned that there's a lot of inputs and outputs on there. How many analog outputs are on the MCX? This is the 152V option.
I will go with 5. No.
Well, you're close. I'll give you that much. It's actually 6.
I was going to start there. Because we're counting 6 steppers on there.
No, that's just counting
analog output.
Yeah, things like digital compressors, variable speed drives.
I should have put the hair on.
Variable dampers, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, 6 of those, which is a lot for a little controller.
Yeah.
All right, hey, we have no listener mail, so we'll move right ahead on this one. And so that's our coverage of the MCX. And of course, if you have a question about that or anything else, or even a suggestion, you can always email us at controllertalknorthamerica@danfoss.com. Thanks for listening. Our audio engineer is Raul Garcia, although it seems like Maria does everything now.
Pretty much at this point.
Did you see Josh today?
Josh who?
Oh, exactly.
The Invisible Man?
Yeah, the new guy Josh is somewhere. He's just not here.
He got this costume on.
That's right. Maria's getting it all done. Until next time, for Chris Brown, I'm Dave Yoder. Stay cool.